Welcome to the video on The Edible Woman by Margaret Atwood. The whole novel is divided into 19 sessions. That means there will be 19 videos. And today I'm going to do the first one. Before we analyze the novel chapter wise, let us see a brief biography of Margaret Atwood. Margaret Eleanor Atwood is a Canadian poet, novelist, literary critic, essayist, teacher, environmental activist, and inventor. Since 1961, she has published 18 books of poetry, 18 novels, 11 books of nonfiction, 9 collections of short fiction, 8 children's books, and 2 graphic novels, as well as a number of small press editions of both poetry and fiction. If you look at the aura of Atwood, we can say that she has written in all genres of literature. Atwood's works encompass a variety of themes including gender issues and identity, religion and myth, the power of language, climate change, and power politics. Many of her poems are inspired by myth and fairy tales, which interested her from a very early age. Atwood is a founder of Griffin Poetry Prize and Writers Trust of Canada. She is also a senior fellow of Massey College, Toronto. Atwood was born in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, the second of three children of Carl Edmund Atwood, an entomologist, and Margaret Dorothy, a farmer, dietitian, and nutritionist from Woodville, Nova Scotia. Because of her father's research in forest entomology, Atwood spent much of her childhood in the backwoods of northern Quebec and traveling back and forth between Ottawa, Sault Ste. Marie, and Toronto. She did not attend school full time until she was 12 years old. She became a voracious reader of literature such as Del Packet book mysteries, Grimm's fairy tales, Canadian animal stories, and comic books. She attended Leaside High School in Leaside, Toronto, and graduated in 1957. Atwood began writing plays and poems at the age of 6. As a child, she also participated in the Brownie program of Girl Guides of Canada. Atwood has written about her experiences in Girl Guides in several of her publications. Atwood realized she wanted to write professionally when she was 16 years old. In 1957, she began studying at Victoria College, the University of Toronto, where she published poems and articles in Acta Victoriana, the college literary journal, and participated in sophomore theatrical tradition of the Bob Comedy Revue. Her professors included J. MacPherson's and Nartha Fry. These two professors are very well known in the field of literary theory and criticism. She graduated in 1961 with a Bachelor of Arts in English and minors in philosophy and French. Atwood's work has been of interest to feminist literary critics, despite Atwood's unwillingness to accept the tag feminism or feminist to herself and her works. Stating with the publication of her first novel, The Edible Woman, Atwood asserted, I don't consider it feminism, I just consider it social realism. Despite her rejection of the label at times, critics have analyzed the sexual politics, use of myth and fairy tale, and gendered relationships in her work through the lens of feminism. Margaret Atwood never accepted herself a feminist in any of her interviews and writings. Now let us analyze the chapter 1 of the novel, The Edible Woman. It is morning of Friday. Marian and her roommate Ainsley are preparing for the last workday before Labor Day weekend. Marian works for Semo Surveys, a market research company, where she revises questionnaires. It is a good job, better than most, she thinks. Yet she can't help envying Ainsley for her job as tester of a defective electric toothbrushes. Marian thinks of her job as the kind of position one is expected to have after earning a BA. Ainsley's is unusual and more temporary. Hangover from the party Ainsley attended the night before, Ainsley tells Marian that her evening was so dull that she had to console herself by getting drunk. Marian suddenly realizes that she is running late for the office. She quickly eats a bowl of cereal and heads for the bus stop. On her way out, she is stopped by the landlady who questions her about the smoke that was emanating from the girl's apartment the night before. Marian explains that it was just the pork chop, but is still given words of warning to pass along to Ainsley. Marian goes to the bus stop but misses the bus by few seconds. As the bus passes before her, she reaches the bus stop. As she was waiting under the tree for the bus stop, Ainsley comes to the bus stop. Marian thinks that Ainsley is quick in getting ready to the office, which she could not do. Marian thinks she should have worn a sleeveless dress like Ainsley, as it is hot weather. Marian tells Ainsley her conversation with the lady down below about the fire which the child reported to the lady. Ainsley tells Marian that the lady is very cunning and she seems upstairs. She seems to come upstairs when they are out to look around their apartment, and she also checks letters and mails. The lady down below further tells Marian that she is giving the apartment for lease only because it is necessary for her, as her late husband did not leave enough money for them at the time of his death to lead a happy and comfortable life. She is more worried about the child, as the house has no separate door but a common for both of them. Hence, she was so much concerned about the child, she spoke to her as if they are corrupting the mind of the child with their behavior and attitude and negatively influencing the child. Marian promises her that she would speak to Ainsley. The lady down below further says that she should have sold the house and went from there, but for the child she is living there, and it is a good district without much problems. Marian and Ainsley do not talk on the bus. Marian likes to look at the advertisements. There is not much common between them except the lady down below. They came to know of each other just before they moved to this apartment. She was a friend of Marian. She was also looking for a roommate as Marian was. As they needed each other, they get along by a symbolic adjustment of habits and with a common interest and a minimum of that pale more hostility one often sees among women. They shared their housework like cooking and cleaning among themselves with an unspoken agreement, though the house does not look clean at all. If Marian does the breakfast dishes, Ainsley does the supper dishes. If Marian sweeps the living room, Ainsley wipes kitchen table. It is a seesaw arrangement between them, and they both knew that if one misses, the whole thing will collapse. Each of them had their own bedroom, but cleaning of them is left to the owner or one who lives in the room. But they never commented on each other's bedrooms, as it is very personal matter. Marian buys a package of peanuts as she did not eat well in the morning and feeling hungry by then. She offers some to Ainsley, but Ainsley does not want it. Hence, she eats all by herself. When they get down at the second last stop to go to their office, Ainsley asks $3 to purchase scotch as they had no scotch at home. Marian gives her the money. They shared the cost of things they purchased but not the content always. Marian cannot take a second drink without mental image of a warning sign printed on them. As a student at school, at the age of 10, she wrote a temperance essay for United Church Sunday School competition illustrating with pictures about car crashes, diagram of a deceased liver, and charts of showing the effect of alcohol upon the circulatory system. This does not allow her to keep up with Peter, who drinks well. Marian hurried to the office as she is little late to work and she envies the job of Ainsley, though Marian's job is better paid and interesting, and Ainsley's job is temporary and unusual. People who meet Ainsley in the party are surprised because she is a tester of defective electronic toothbrushes. Marian thinks that she is more equipped for Ainsley's job as she is more mechanical ability. As Marian enters the office building, she is late by three quarters of an hour. Everybody took note of her, but coming out, no one commented on her coming late as it happens in most of the offices across the world. If we look at the character and attitude of these two women, Marian seems to be very conservative, traditional, conventional, but on the other hand, Ainsley is unconventional, modern, and not uh, very interested in following rules and regulations of the society. Thank you for watching the video.